debit card, but see, we didn't have debit cards back
No,
then.
I don't have a debit card. And you have this app on your phone.
Well, see, we didn't have, this is 2004, we
Yeah.
didn't have any of that stuff, so the hospitals wouldn't accept credit cards for payments because they don't want you getting into more debt.
Oh, interesting. I guess
Yeah.
I feel like they
Yeah.
just want to get paid, so they
Yeah.
make it super easy now. You can do it
Well,
from your phone.
well, maybe that's the case, but like I said, I mean, I just paid, and there were 2 bills that I was on a clinical trial for, and I had to go to Faulkner because I got an infection from one of the surgeries, and I was admitted into the hospital, and I had the 2 shots done at Faulkner instead of Dana-Farber, and my insurance wouldn't pay for it. My insurance charged me, and Faulkner billed Blue Cross, and I'm like, I'm part of a clinical trial. He said, well, you should have gone to Dana-Farber. I'm like, that was where I was going, but I was at Faulkner, and my doctor admitted me to the hospital because I had an infection. I said, so what am I to do? He
Right.
gave me my shots there.
Right.
Well, we don't pay for those. We don't cover them.
And they're like $7,000 a
Well,
piece.
back in 2004, it was $3,500 for one of the bills. I wrote down every time I called, the minute I got the bill, I called, I complained. I wrote down supervisors' names, I wrote down times and dates. For 6 months now, I called, and they finally erased the bill. Because what happened was, they never got back to me, it was their fault, but they were so impressed with the fact that I have everybody's names, and first name, last name, and dates and times that I called. I'm like, if you need phone records, proving that I called, I'd be more than happy to supply them for you. Because this is back when I had my we didn't have cell phones back then.
Oh
we
my
did,
God.
but, oh yeah, well, I had, yeah, but, and that sucked because I ended up in the hospital for 5 days. Yeah, oh yeah, it was, it was a mess. It was a mess. Hi.
Where you been?
What was a mess?
No, I'm just
We're
talking
talking about
Dave,
when she was
Dave.
in the hospital.
when I had.
Yeah, I can hear all 3 of them.
Okay.
If you don't mind,
Okay, we'll move down.
I'm going to put this on just in case the
Over here.
recorder doesn't work.
Okay.
I'm going to sit there. Yeah, I'm going to sit right there.
Poor Kath, she had
I had it. I went through it.
a terrible.
John gonna be here?
What happened?
Oh, no,
Well, she had
no.
breast
I'm a
cancer and
cancer
had
survivor.
all kinds
Oh,
of-
that's horrible.
Well,
That you had it, not
I
that you
had it. I had it. 2004.
No?
I'm a survivor. And they're done that.
Okay.
Valerie, how are you?
I'm good.
Good, good.
Sorry I'm running late. I got
Okay.
stuck on the way back from the golf course on Eel Point.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that.
I'm teasing. Come back from the dump.
Hey, Abby.
All the wrong. That was the joke, right? Sorry, Abs. That was the joke.
The golf course.
Okay, so we got a couple things going on. Minutes.
Yeah.
We're going to approve minutes, but we're going to be redoing them, so I'm going to vote no. So can I get a I just haven't had a chance to review them, and I know I looked at them briefly. I know there's some things in there that we need to modify. So we have a 30-day window to approve, apparently, so we'll approve.
Yeah.
And then we are free to do whatever we want with our minutes because we're a committee and we can do whatever we want.
Okay. Sounds good.
So I'll review those that we approved today. And so can I get a motion to approve May 5th, 9th, 16th, and 23rd?
Me?
5th, 9th,
Fifth.
16th,
5,
8th, I'm sorry, the
No.
8th, the 9th, the 16th, and the 23rd of May. Sorry, my mind is elsewhere. still.
5,
Eight.
8, 5, 9,
5, 9,
5, 16,
And 523.
and 5, 23. So it's okay for me to put those on the website.
5, 9.
8, 9, 16, and 23.
So moved.
Yeah, and I don't know that there's a thing that says you have to put them on the website in 30 days.
They have to be on by.
Who's giving you information?
Andrew.
Okay. I'm just curious.
Yeah, no, because they're not, I have 30
Because
days.
I'm just curious because we have planning board minutes that haven't been posted.
Yeah.
We also have other group committees, plenty of committees that don't have minutes posted.
Right.
So I'm just a little uncertain of the unfairness here.
Well, I was asking because
It's not on you. I'm
Right.
just saying. I'm
Right.
just making an observation.
right.
I'm not suggesting that we have any unfair beneficial treatment, but at the
No.
same time, I don't think that we should be treated differently than anyone else.
I don't think that that was the scope of the conversation. I just wanted to make sure, when I send them, I should send them to all three of you.
Yeah, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about
Yeah, and-
what the
and-
dates are and it gets
He
posted.
said 30 days, but I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
But I don't think that was meant in any, just a fact, 30 days, but yes, a lot of boards don't have them posted.
Right, so, and I'm not suggesting that anyone is being unfair to us, I'm just saying that I think there should be a practice of consistency.
Right.
Which is one of the reasons why we're sitting here today talking, is about consistency. So it's kind of ironic if the minutes are something that isn't consistent. Under the state law, I understand now that we have an obligation to approve minutes within 30 days at the latest, so we'll do that. John, the motion is to approve the 8th, the 9th, the 16th, and the 23rd, what I've asked for. And the discussion on the motion is that I will be submitting and asking for a motion to amend, because I haven't reviewed them thoroughly, and I know there's changes that need to be made.
You had to review minutes, okay.
So for currently, it's to approve,
Okay, so
but I just want to let you guys know.
Yeah.
That's all. Just
Okay.
trying to be open and transparent.
Do we need to talk about reviewing the other minutes that I sent?
No, I'm not there yet.
Oh, okay.
Bear with me.
I'm jumping the gun.
No, bear with me, sorry, I just,
Are these four to approve or review?
these are to approve.
Okay. All right.
First of all, let's retrospectively call the meeting to order. It's Wednesday, June 27th at just after 1 p.m. President John McLaughlin, Belly Oliver, myself, and Kathy Flynn, our support staff. Thank you, Kathy. Roll call to order. This is maybe being auto videoed. I don't know. We don't tend to get consistent performance from the IT department on that. I'll accept by unanimous consent and adoption of the agenda, there being no nays. We're going to forego the review of the minutes for a moment, where we are currently and have been discussing approving minutes. John, we're talking about approving the 8th, the 9th, the 16th, and the 23rd of May.
15th and 23rd of March. Oh, March.
May.
May, yeah, okay, 5 May. Okay, I got it.
Okay.
Write them down.
Next meeting, we're going to review those again and adopt a change.
Okay.
Today, we're going to approve them. So there was a motion, Val, thank you. There being any no's, I'm a no. You're in
Okay,
favor?
approve
You're in
today.
favor, so 2 in favor, 1 against. Let the record reflect. And can I get a motion to hold for review June 6th and 20th?
So moved.
Thank you.
June,
June 6th and 20th.
6, 6, 6,
6:20.
and 6/20th.
6/20.
And we're okay, approved.
Yeah, I don't want to make bigger thing of the minutes in the 30 days than it is. It's just, we got to do it, we understand that, and I just was making a general comment
Yeah, yeah.
that, gee,
Yeah, I know. I
it seems
understand.
pretty liberally policed. Okay, so we're on to discussion of the fences, gates, railings, and related, and I would like to maybe get through that and take a bite out of solar panels and related, and quickly touch on the Nantucket Advisory Board. Actually, can we touch on would anyone mind if we touch on the Nantucket Advisory Board first?
No.
Okay, thank you.
Motion to discuss number 2 on unfinished business first.
Thank you. So where we left it, there being no nays, will unanimous consent. I think we can do away with all this motion stuff, but there's only 3 of us. It's kind of fun though. It's practice.
1 or 2 on unfinished business.
It's practice.
Yes.
We're on 2. We're just going to take it up for a moment. I'd like to make a comment on it and see if you guys have any comments. I'm thinking that we well, I just want to follow up to the whole, there were members appointed to the Nantucket Advisory Board at the HEC meeting, I think now 2 meetings ago. At the meeting, it was mentioned that there isn't a full roster, and that we, being the HTC, collectively should go out and beat the bushes to drum up some interested participants. We, being the organizational focus committee, have an interest in there being a full board so that we can advance whatever the recommendation is gonna be on the area maps, the historic district concept in Nantucket, any rules and guidelines. So I reached out to some folks to see if, who are involved in different things in Nantucket, to see if they know of anyone who's interested. And I asked John to give me the Nantucket Advisory Board interest form, committee interest form. He provided that. So I sent that out. I guess where I am with it is do we feel like we should just hold discussion of the area map, overall the area map, separated from the district map and the rules and the guidelines? Or should we advance that at least to the commission as a recommendation so that the advisory board does have an expanded area to work within if they want to? So that's a question.
No, I know. I find it extremely interesting that nobody is running for these positions. They have 3 separate Nantucket interest groups.
Right.
And all these people are so interested in Nantucket and having meetings, but none of them want to join this board. It's fascinating to me. And I know that for a fact.
Do you have any idea why? I mean, I guess.
No, but you know what? Because you're bringing this up, I am going to call somebody I know who's on one of them.
Okay.
And pose that.
Can you write it down, their name down, so I'm not calling the same person?
Bruce Mandel.
Okay, well, I was gonna call Bill. I reached out to Bill Greeter, and then I'm gonna reach out to one member of each of the other organizations.
And the reason I'm so familiar with this is because my Steve is part of the Nantucket Admiralty, and that's where they want to have all the meetings, and he sets up the schedule. And we were talking about it today, and I'm like, I can't believe there is so much interest in Nantucket and nobody wants to be on this.
Do you think it's that they don't want to be on it, or is it possible that they just don't really read the notice in the paper?
I don't know, so that's why I'm gonna call
Okay.
him.
Because I don't understand it either. I mean, it seems like it's a pretty active group.
Right,
Multiple groups,
right,
like you said, and
yeah.
but we haven't really gotten any feedback. Maybe they think they need to be an architect or a designer, but there's plenty of builders and other people out there who have experience with architecture and what the fabric and character of Nantucket are. I don't know that they need to be I mean, it's advisory input. I would not myself suggest that they need to be, for the Nantucket area in particular, they need to be so much a residential designer with a big resume as someone who has an interest in architecture and is a resident of Nantucket and understands context.
So you bring up a good point. We appointed somebody who isn't a resident of Nantucket. How's that? Yeah.
That's up to the.
It's just a curiosity.
Yeah, no, I mean, I guess my point is, I get what you're saying. I'm not suggesting that you have to be a resident of a certain area to be appointed. I guess I was more saying, I think
That
it's
seems
important
like
if
it-
you're not someone who understands what's going on with architecture or building, that the other, you know what I mean? Like you can have 3 qualifications to get a job, and one of them is a degree, and one of them is experience, and the other one is, I don't know, whatever else it is. If they don't have the first 2, being a Nantucket resident interested in architecture and knowing the context of Nantucket, I think is a threshold. Or if they're a builder, if there's something else. But I think Linda was appointed to, who was appointed to Nantucket Advisory? They said that if there's a bunch of other people, they're fine with having it be a resident. Was that Linda? I think it was Linda. Whoever wasn't the resident said that. So I don't really.
Okay,
So that's just the
that
idea is getting more
aside,
people.
The struggle I have with this Nantucket map thing
Yeah.
is that there are no there are no parameters that go along with identifying that area. So it's not like the old historic district in town, and it's not like the old historic district in Wisconsin, which have very specific materials, window types, you know what I mean? As far as I can tell, the only thing that really matters to anyone out there is the size, the height.
Right,
So I know we're trying to get them to identify what they want, but so we're gonna make this map, and what is that gonna essentially do?
I guess what I'm looking at is maybe baby steps. So the idea is, and actually personally, and please chime in, John, the idea of expanding the area map was to preserve context in the Nantucket end of the island, as far as I'm concerned. It's not just Nantucket proper, it's anything that you might think of when you think of Nantucket area. So for me, the reason I brought it up was to see if where we as a recommending body are happy with the space that's allotted, Nantucket area, or if we agree that it should be expanded, and if we do, then how, to what size. I see that I don't disagree with you. They need to have some parameters on what it is they're advising on. I believe they can advise on the guidebook and the rural areas for now, and then it might be beneficial. I mean, I would like to think that the Nantucket Advisory Board initiative will be, they'll pick it up and run with it responsibly and appropriately, such that we'll get information that we can actually make a recommendation with. I don't know when that's going to be. So I'm just wondering if the area map.
Do you have that map, John?
Okay.
The Nantucket map?
I have
Yeah.
I'm just wondering if the Nantucket map, the area map, mind you, is something we advance just to address that portion of it. Which area is Nantucket? And get that off our table. I don't have a horse in the race. I'm just looking at the list of things we have and trying to see what we might be able to advance to responsibly, cross off the list.
So this looks different to me
Yeah,
than,
there's a couple of maps
oh,
there.
okay.
That was what brought it to the meeting. That was at the Nantucket Advisory Board that you all met out back.
I mean, the thing I was thinking is does it become more of the Nantucket Area Advisory Board, and it's everything south of or west of a certain point?
Well, that's why I wanted to see it again, because,
This is the last word we had, right here.
let me see.
And that one, that is the one we discussed it, said we'd like to go with that. And the guy from Nantucket said yes. Maybe he talked to the others.
Brad Fleming, their chair.
And maybe he's speaking for himself. But I say, that's what we should first vote on is this. It will be a Nantucket area, all right, according to the minutes here.
Well, this is just discussion.
Huh?
This is discussion about whether we're going to vote on an area map before anything else.
That's right.
And then the discussion will be what actually is that area. And we won't be voting on anything today because we didn't notice it.
Yeah.
But I just want to bring it up and see if we want to expand. If we agree that the area should be expanded, do we then believe that what was proposed is acceptable, number one? And if not, what area is acceptable? And then number two is, well, it's really number one, is do we want to advance this particular matter right now, which is the area map? So if we want to advance it, then we can take certain steps, which is agree or disagree on the area and resolve that so we can make a recommendation.
This one says includes Tuckanuck and Muskegon Island, right,
Right.
because they're off the map. Well, what we should do first, vote the area, I think, before we go into the details of what we're going to approve and do, have policies, no, rules and regulations, excuse me.
You're talking about the Nantucket area or the Nantucket historic area?
I'm talking about the whole thing, wherever that thing goes,
The Nantucket area map.
American area map is right here, this is the one we discussed, and we said this is the way to go, and the guy from America said, yes, that looks like it's appropriate.
Okay, so,
So we
I
said-
don't agree with Warren's Landing and Fisher's Landing being included, though.
yeah, that's why so, and I knew we were gonna have I felt we were gonna have some disagreement over the areas. So I'm gonna go back to what should be the number one question first, which is this something we wanna advance now, or do we wanna wait for the Nantucket Advisory Board? If we wanna advance it now, then we'll talk about what the areas are. And, in our next meeting. If we do.
With the board, you mean?
No, our meeting.
Oh,
Our meeting. Because we have to notice it. So this is just about Nantucket Advisory Board, chair comments, reach out to new members. Actually, there's something cut off here because it was the area map was in the Word document I had.
Okay, this map here shows, I can't see too well.
John,
Going up
John?
to, but not including Connecticut.
I get you. And I want to get into the nitty gritty of it with you, but we're not there yet. We got to decide if we want to move this forward or we want to wait.
Okay, I agree with you, the Bank Advisory Committee, if they form one, okay, they should be in on any comments about the area.
Okay, so then we should hold,
Yeah, we should
in your
hold that.
opinion.
I think we should hold this for
Okay.
then.
And what do you think?
Now,
Oh,
I want to
sorry.
go back to something you mentioned. You mentioned that the applications have gone out for people to put in for it.
Yeah.
Valerie said, okay, has any come in?
Okay, so
Okay.
no. The application, the notice went out for
Yeah.
Nantucket Advisory Board member interests a few weeks ago that were voted on, two HTC meetings ago, 2 Tuesdays ago.
You send out the application.
No, they were voted,
Oh,
the HTC put out, we as a group put out, had John advertise for the Nantucket Advisory Board because it was due. All the boards were due.
right?
Though, it was noticed in the paper, the applications came in, and they were voted on. But there's open seats, there's like a few seats, including an alternate position that's gonna come up in August. So there's a few open seats, which is what Valerie and I were talking about, is how to get people aware of it to see if they might be interested.
Okay.
I don't wanna talk about individual people, that's not our role.
We appointed her to the
We
committee, didn't we?
we didn't appoint, this public body didn't appoint anyone. And I'm not, as far as I'm concerned, and I mean this, anyone who steps up to the plate and wants to serve can serve. How it works out for the individual committee with an individual person is gonna be up to that committee to work out. That's not our, you know what I mean, that's not our thing. So I don't wanna talk about individual people, because I don't think it's fair.
Okay, but now, who I just mentioned, did submit, I got to talk about it because I got to have my answers. And she put in an application for something,
Yeah,
and then at the meeting, she decided to change the application to this one, another committee.
that, the HDC, as a board, as a commission,
Yeah.
voted that that was acceptable.
Okay,
That's all there is to it.
my question was, I find an illegality that you can do that.
Okay, so my suggestion to you is that, because that's not part of what we do, is rule on legalities or take up those matters, is that you bring that up at the regular HDC meeting. I'm not trying to shut you down, you need to take it to the people who can talk about it. That's not our job, it's not in our job description to talk about that stuff. If you want to talk about it as a recommendation on how those things happen in the future, that's a different thing, and we can write it down, and with God's speed, we'll get to it sooner rather than later, and it will be something we take up, is how are appointments made, and who's eligible, and all that stuff.
The Historic Districts Commission sitting voted that person to be on that committee.
Yes.
Yeah. It was illegal in my book.
John,
Okay? And I tried to get to town council. Okay? I find it illegal. It's nothing personal. It's illegal, the operation, the way we've done it.
I understand, but we didn't do it. This public body did not do it. And this public body cannot address whether it was legal, illegal, informed, uninformed, none of that. It's not something we do. So I understand your position,
Right.
but you need to take it to the people who can do something. They can acknowledge, they can either agree to hear you about it or not. They can agree to do something about it or not. I mean, I think as a practical matter, it will get kicked back to us as, okay, make a recommendation on how appointments work and who's eligible and what the process is. So I think it's a worthwhile point in terms of the guidelines and how we proceed so that there's consistency and in the future people understand what the expectation is.
I fully understand.
But we cannot deal with an individual or anything that's
Okay.
happened in the
Okay.
past.
The Historic District Commission made that appointment.
Yes.
Okay. The thing is, I want, would you
Now we're getting
arrange
somewhere.
John to put it on for next week? That, a discussion of,
That's an individual request. I just want to be clear, Kathy. We're not making a formal,
Right.
right.
because it's
Because-
not
because-
part of what we do.
I can't get to town council. I gotta go through,
Okay, so let me make a note.
you know the procedure, all right?
So,
I wanna get an opinion of the decision of the HDC on those appointments.
okay, John, you're going off track here.
Now, I want it scheduled so I can discuss it with the other members, and then we can vote there to ask town council for an opinion. We can't ask for an opinion, but the HDC can.
Right, so I think
Right.
in terms of what we're here to do, that should be a matter that will come up under administrative. That'll come up in our administrative module.
Ours or the HDC?
The overall, how things get done, not this thing that happened last 2 weeks ago or something that happened 6 months ago or 10 years ago. Just the whole concept of how appointments are made,
Procedure.
who makes them, who can apply, the who, what, where, and when of appointments would come up under administrative and the good of the order, or the public body itself.
That's what I was gonna tell you, but the point I found, the illegality, if there is one, is the fact that, actually gives you my train of thought, is the fact that, well, let me get it right.
Thank you.
The application had to be in by a certain time, and they weren't.
John,
That's what I'm
you're
saying.
killing me here. We got 2 hours to get through stuff, and you keep talking about stuff that we can't do anything about. I understand. I understand your
Discuss it
concern.
next Tuesday.
You want a piece of gum?
No, that make you jump, make you sick. Not good.
Only if you eat it.
But I think he needs to bring that up to John to put
Oh,
on the,
don't mess with the average.
Right, so, and he mentioned to Kathy to ask John, and I clarified that it's a citizen or an HDC member request, it's not a request of the Organizational Focus Committee.
okay,
It's not even part of our,
purview.
it's not even part of our public body stuff, so I'm not even,
Okay, fair
okay.
enough.
But there are parts of it that are, and we'll address them, because I think, it's a good point. How are these things done, and do people know in advance, and, I mean, part of it is, I think part of it for me is
Were
the
they
idea,
notified? Whoever they're gonna find, were they notified already?
I don't know,
Gave
I
them a
don't know, I'm not the administrator. Can I
Who
make a,
appointed them? The HDC, right?
you did,
The commission, not this
yeah,
board.
yes.
Okay, all right, I'll take it up Tuesday night. We'll go over it.
Well, Tuesday night, we don't have a meeting.
Let me just say this,
Isn't 4th of July?
Well,
yeah, next week we're not meeting,
yeah, next week you guys aren't meeting.
Oh.
No, we're meeting.
it's already July.
realize.
Yeah.
John, just to say one thing and close that out. It makes sense to me that it comes up as part of what we're doing in terms of making recommendations on the organizational side of the HDC, because it addresses like the public's perception of everything being done in a forthright manner. If other people knew that they could come to the table and put their name in to get appointed, I doubt it, I sincerely doubt it, but maybe someone else would have shown up. So we need to be fair to everyone. And that's what I'm taking this under, your comments under, and why we'll bring it up, why we'll take it up at a later date. Is that okay? Can we leave it at that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Who makes the decision whether we made a mistake or not and do it the way we proceeded?
The commission does, a vote of the commission,
Okay, they can contact the town council and get him here.
correct. Now, can I, and I think well, I'm not gonna get into it. I think it's a losing battle, but you're more than welcome to take it up.
Did we appoint others other than her?
I,
Or did they? Anybody recall who's on that board?
there's
now?
a total of 3 people,
Okay,
actually 4. It's Bob, is it 4?
4.
I thought it was only 3.
No.
It's Bob Olson, Brad Fleming, Linda.
Tom Erickson, and Linda.
Oh, Tom Erickson, okay.
So this past Tuesday, yesterday, they did not have a quorum.
So I
okay.
thought that there was only 3 of them, and then there was, 2 open seats and an alternate, that's why I kept saying there's a few open seats. Okay, so that's a good
So
clarification.
Linda hasn't been sworn in yet, so they didn't have a quorum yesterday, so they didn't meet.
Okay, I think we beat that horse.
Thank you.
It's dead.
It's dead. Can we get back to the area map? Are you in agreement with John that we should hold off until the Mattock Advisory Board on the
Yeah.
area map? Okay. So I did my due diligence and asked, and I happen to be in agreement with you guys that we should hold until we have a group, but I wanted to run it by you. Okay. So we're gonna take up the module fences, gates, railings, and related, and I think other than a couple of items that came up last night at the HDC, we have a pretty good foundation to go from to make a recommendation. And I think what I'd like to touch on is what we're missing are types of fence.
Yep, I'm working on that.
No, I got you.
Yeah.
What,
Oh, thank
so
you.
what we're missing, thank you. So what we're missing is types of fence.
Yeah.
Thanks, John. And I want to recap, just, I don't want to be a broken record.
We put all of them, they're all over the place.
Somebody's got to be the broken record. So to just kind of summarize, we broke fencing down into the concept of urban and suburban and rural, which tracks in different words the existing guidelines.
You're gonna send us copies of that.
We all took pictures of it on the board. I'll send you a copy of it. I'll write draft across it.
Late, it's just yesterday. Anyway, go ahead, all right.
Do we need to review all the details, or can we just skip
No,
it?
and I'm working on the drawings, which will
Okay.
make it, I hope, clearer.
Okay. So,
Oh, take the picture.
I actually like what we're doing with this, and I think that if it's written down like one of the situations we had last night, it will be much clearer to people.
yeah. I think it was, just if I may make an observation, I think when you brought up one of the concepts we've been discussing as a recommendation, which is to create a visual block or
Every so many feet,
or
yeah.
like a visual filter or something, I don't know if you want
Mm-hmm.
to call it a block, because that maybe isn't the right word, because it's not a
break.
block, but a visual
A
break.
break.
Oh, that's what we wrote down, visual break.
Right.
So, every third section of fence, I think when you brought that up, that helped people to process. I agree with you, I think that having the diagram that shows the urban and then the suburban rural will be very helpful. One of the things I wanted to pick up in terms of space, what we've discussed in the rural and what's basically the outlying areas,
The rural.
is that you can have fence, open fence, mind you, it should follow the topography. And typically in that area, what would be appropriate is split rail. We haven't discussed which type of split rail is good. I mean, I know, I'm looking at this thing in Quidnet, and it's a one rail fence with a board across the top, and that's it. But the thing we have, and then we discussed that you would have the private space in the back, from the back of the house to the back of the lot. One of the things that keeps coming up in it, and personally, it's very difficult for me, to bite my tongue, is this idea that we don't approve fencing around the whole of the property. Visual, what type of fence, aside for a moment? I mean, I would agree that a board fence around a whole property is probably not a good idea in certain circumstances. But, I mean, I think on the least intrusive to the landscape would be, you could put a split rail fence around your whole property that followed the topography. Personally, I believe that should be appropriate. I think historically it's correct. I also think that if you are putting in a fence that's like these so-called pool fence, which is really more a type, that you would be able to put it wherever you wanted to as long as it's not visible. So it kind of, and then so those are just my personal feelings on what's appropriate and what's not based on what I've been looking at, the imagery and the NHA database and in the books. I have 6 books now at home, all on architectural Nantucket history and stuff, and I've been looking through them. So that's kind of a statement. And then the other statement is the consistency is way off the board, because we had one fellow come in who's, landscape guy, no names or properties referenced, and he was able to put up a board fence around most of his property based on the fact that, there's tall shrubs and things around it, so it's not visible. 6-foot board fence. And then we had somebody else come in and they weren't able to put up a pool fence hidden in shrubs. And the pool fence, what I mean by that is the metal, you know what I mean, the chicken wire, rat wall, whatever it is. So I'm concerned about that, because I think it diminishes who we are as a commission if one person can come in and get one thing and the other person, that's way more potentially obtrusive, and somebody else comes in and they can't get something that's not going to be seen by determination of the conditions in the approval. So I bring that up, all that blah, 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 because I think it's important to deal with it in our recommendation, because part of our whole process is to get consistency built up. And that is like the definition to me of inconsistency when it comes to fences. So I wanted to mention it to you guys and see what you thought.
I don't disagree with you. I think I had some concerns about the total boarded-in lot, and I don't know.
John? I think you've done a good job on this, presenting it to us. And this should be finalized today, that we're going to present this to the board and make a recommendation on this. That takes care of most of your I'll say your fencing, railings, your gates, your solar panels, and related, another subject we gotta come up.
Okay.
This one here is self-explanatory. Even if you have to explain it to individuals, but the board, I think it's ready to go. Move this on out of the way, then we go back to the solar panels and related for next meeting.
We got so much other stuff to do. Okay, can I ask this? I thank you. Your point's well taken, and thank you for, I appreciate it. This was a group effort, but I just did the terrible drawing. Okay, so I want to separate and keep track of these things. It's not quite like an amendment to an amendment on the floor of town meeting, but I didn't have lunch and not enough coffee today. I can't eat any more sugar. I'm going to bounce off a wall. Okay, so we really have 2 topics on the table under our whole fences, railing, gates, railings, and stuff. Bear with me. One is the drawing, which I think needs a little more work before it be submitted. And then 2 is whether, there's 3 topics. 2 is whether we include with this types of fences, or do we just deal with locations and deal with types later? My personal feeling is if we don't attach types, then that's going to be the first question people ask.
Well, so I thought about that, and I liked the idea of the fences that are open, being picket, split rail. There's 10 different types of picket in the front at a shorter height versus a board, whether it's board with lattice on the top or just solid board. To me, they're similar. Those are usually taller and more of a privacy fence, and there's different types, but do we get into the minutia of different types of fences? I don't think so. We can give a couple of examples, but there are always gonna be others that come up, I think, that,
I got it.
you know.
I wanna, your points are well taken. I wanna address the concern I have after I ask John. John, so what do you think about, I'm gonna ask you anyways, it's gonna undermine my point, but that's not why I'm here. What do you think about having different types of fences listed for this, so that, because when we go to the commission, they're gonna look at this and say, okay, but what type of fences are you recommending can go where? Or do you think that doesn't matter and we tell them, we'll be back to you?
And that is for one thing. It's one of the few things that were voted as rules and regulations. Fences, railings, and steps shall be made of wood, brick steps with wrought iron railings. Stone steps and wrought iron fences are approved on a case-by-case basis when appropriate. So there. Fences
Okay.
and railings, steps shall be made of wood. It's all it says. So now we gotta pick out, like, when somebody wants to use a gate, you tell them, well, make it appropriate to what's, what do you call it? Getting bad as you. It's, write that down.
It's being
The,
recorded.
the style fence. All right, the style is you have picket, pointed, picket flat, picket with a cap. Okay, you have those. Right, that's typical. One of our typical fences, type 1 and type 2. Okay, then if they want gates, okay, gates shall match the fence. In other words, if the fence is 4 foot high and the gate wants to be the same height, so it matches a straight line through the property, I think that's important, that they match the neighborhood. So you judge by what's already existing, which is all over the island. Out of town fences would be split rail, paddle end, only the paddle end fence, split rail.
Oh, pardon me, what?
Huh?
What did you call it?
Paddle end.
Paddle?
You two kinds of fencing. All right, you have the split rail, which is paddle ends and you slide in, right? And then you have the other ones that are round.
Right.
They're mortised in.
Yeah, the peg and mortise.
We don't approve the mortise one. There's a few around. People not knowing, put them in thinking that was okay. Now, what do? You know? I'm just saying that. All right, that settles the fencing.
Okay.
Oh, God.
And
help
the
me.
railings, well, you consider railings as what we used to call railings, is coming down from, steps from the house, and they have a railing coming down. That to me is a railing.
Right, railings there and railings,
Yeah.
when I was referring to
Steps.
railings, steps. No, when I was referring to railings, just to be clear, I'm referring to the idea started with fences that go around to steps, and then you go up, and there's a railing there, and just kind of our discussion on, do they have to be the same? Do they not have to be the same? If they're not the same, is there some kind of guideline? If they're connected, and then the railings around the house, styles and types, which I think almost could be, it's a whole separate thing, if, depending on the level of detail we were gonna get into.
Okay, I look at both sides of it. Now, if you've got a house, you got a front porch,
Yeah.
you shingle it around, you put a cap on it, that's a railing around the porch. If you've got, one step down to a deck, a small deck, stairs. On an angle it comes down is a railing, and what comes across is a railing, because it's associated with the steps and not the wall, the shingle.
Right.
So, you gotta, make sure you clarify what a railing is.
So we can do that in the definitions.
Right, yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
that's what I'm going by what's here. We'll probably take these two things that I have, and we'll tear them apart and put them back together. We're gonna have to match much modern stuff, windows.
Yeah, but let's stick with the,
Okay.
yep, you're right. So I guess the question then is,
I would put examples, but I think that you're gonna be hard pressed to only have 2 or 3, given what's around.
yeah, and my concern is that, my concern is that if we don't give examples,
Oh, I think we should, for
that,
sure.
because where we talk about that you can do things, I have two concerns. One is, if we don't give examples of what are approvable, which then we default to what is my second concern, which is, at a meeting, you know, I will literally hear people say, well, we don't approve anything but a 5-in-1 or a 6-foot board, or a board fence, or we don't approve anything but a type 2 fence. And like, it just kills me because there's picket fence, as John just said, with the pointed, with the flat, with the cap. There's some that's
that go-
staggered, like
Yeah.
you say.
Yeah,
So like, and those are actually historical fences that are in the books.
that's for the commissioners to decide. We'll make a recommendation, but they'll make the final decision what we want.
They certainly will, but my concern was that if we don't give them a host of historical examples, we're gonna end up back at the default, which is, if it's a picket fence, it needs to be a type 2. I'm not pointing fingers at anyone in particular, I'm just saying it's human nature that if you have options, then you use them, and if you don't, you don't. So type 2 is the default. And maybe in town, type 2 is typically gonna be the default. But it seems, which is the other concern, you know, if everything is all picket fences, type 2, unless someone comes in here and they fight and kick and scream to get it otherwise, the whole island is gonna look the same eventually. Do you know what I
I
mean?
think town has a lot more variety options than
Outside.
out of town. And looking at this, I also don't think that we should rule out the paddock type fence, whether it's 3 rails, 2 rails, or 1 rail.
Yeah.
It's historic.
Yeah. So paddock. One, 2, 3, rail. So I think as opposed to like getting caught up in,
The way I'd like to do it is
Yes.
to do maybe 3 examples for each type we're talking about.
We've got 3. We have 1, 2, 3. Those are 3 examples of the type 1, type 2, and type, we've only got 3 fences.
right, but the third one is really more of a railing. That's for when you have yeah, where I've seen that is like in town where the house is literally 5 feet from the sidewalk and they extend the stair railing down and they wrap it around the front yard. So I think, yeah, I think that's a good point. I think that's ultimately what we want to have.
These 3 are, I think, are good. Now, the only thing I'll say is that you have in type 1, type 2, type 3. But in that, you've got to add one thing. Are you gonna have 1-inch square, pickets, not pickets, coming down the stairs, say, pickets, or crossbuck? There's crossbucks on the stairs,
Right, that's what I was talking about with railings is how to, but I think that, I'd suggest that maybe we do the fence stuff first, even though we have it down here.
Yeah, then
We do
break it
fences
down.
and gates, and then we deal with railings separately. Val, I think your point about, the paddock fence is, I agree with you. I mean, I keep seeing it in everything. Which makes me think that we should be doing this similar to the way we've done the roof shingles, which is why I'm trying to layer these things, because we're learning as we go what worked and what didn't. And having the OHD and the SOHD as one category and all other areas as another category, I think helps to bridge this whole urban-suburban rule kind of a portrayal or perception. And then we would have a category of in our recommendation, fences that are approvable in the OHD, SOHD, and urban areas, and then fences that are approvable in all other areas, being, more rural. What do you think about that?
I think it has to be three
Three what?
categories.
Okay.
Because I think that board fences in the rural landscape are not good.
Well, we would just not put them in the rural. Oh, you're so like
I'm
suburban.
saying in rural, like out in the pastures.
Right.
It's better to have something that delineates maybe the property but doesn't close it off visually. It
So-
delineates what you own, but it's open,
Right.
an open style that is just that, to delineate. It's not to keep things out or keep things in.
So maybe one of the ways, just entertain this thought, maybe one of the ways we deal with that is we add to our plan the concept of a fence within a fence for these rural areas where you may want to have a board fence, just like your neighbor in the suburban or the urban area has, which is just a small area of your backyard.
Right.
But that's the only, it has to be a smaller, relatively small area in the rural landscape, typically no larger than you would be able to do in the
Yeah,
urban
I'm not
area.
saying they can't have it, like
No, no,
you're
I know.
saying around the house. I think that's a good point.
Okay.
I'm thinking, looking at things like that, we just have to word it right.
Right.
I get what you're saying.
And I get what you're
Yeah.
saying. So what we could do is like, so say it's a couple of columns in it. So we'll have one thing that's the illustrations with the fence names, and then we'll have like a table that tells you OHD, SOHD. I don't know if you want to do all other areas.
Mm-hmm.
But it could, then what we could do is when it gets down to board in all other areas, it could be approvable subject to note one, and then note one would say something like, board fence is not approvable in rural areas and expands, whatever the wording is, but to capture what it is we're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
So that, I guess for me, what I'm hoping we'll end up with is some picture, some diagrams that illustrate the point, and then something that's hard and fast to look at that tells you, like in a text base, just quick and simple, X and Y. I'm in this area, I want this, yes, no, I can't have it, okay. I can have this instead, I can have this, this, and this, great, and then go and design it. So that would be the two components in our presentation. I don't know how it'll get written up in the book, but it would be simpler, I think, to be able to present and say,
Kind of like a chart?
exactly, just a chart that says which ones are where.
Okay.
So I'm thinking the OHD and the SOHD. I mean, I guess I could just do a chart. I guess we could just do a chart now.
Want to use that board right there?
Yeah, that's not a bad idea, right? We have
No?
it.
Is there an eraser? And that's just kind of over there.
Are you guys? What I'd like to do now is go through and figure out types.
Okay,
Are you good with that?
yeah.
Because then when we're getting one step closer to getting this closed down.
You want this?
Yeah.
Okay, so develop competence.
Mental confidence. Huh.
I would have erased develop. That would have been mental.
Wow.
Look.
Take it all off and start from scratch.
Okay, I'm gonna back up just a little bit so you can see. Okay, so this is what I'm thinking. I haven't thought about it yet, so let me. So we basically will have we'll have the fence, height. We'll have the area, which would be OHD urban. And then, do you think we should do? Do you think we should do suburban? Should we do
No,
all
I think
other
what you
areas,
should
or
do-
do suburban down in the notes? Like we can delineate, like all other areas could be suburban or rural, and then it could have like a note, like a board fence would say "see diagram for approvable areas" or something like that. Because it's going to get complicated
Well,
quick.
I'm thinking it's very complicated. Why don't we do OHD, SOHD, urban, rural, and suburban as our categories, and then do types and type,
Yeah, that's what we're doing.
type.
So this will be we're on the same page here. So this will be other areas. So that's suburb and rural.
What's that bottom word on your left? Right in the middle.
Urban,
What does that say?
urban,
Huh?
urban.
Urban.
Urban? Where'd
So
that
then
come
this would be open.
Last
town.
week we town, yeah.
from? We didn't have a town, other people won't know what urban is.
Well, because town is a little different than urban. All right, so then open fences would be
Urban,
ticket.
This
This
is
is-
Coast Guard Station. You need
Wow.
urban.
It's just really hard to rate.
Move the chair.
Okay. Is that better? So, and we can erase this stuff, so let's not get, we're just trying to get started. Oh, I can't write cricket.
You sure you can't?
My equilibrium will be on.
You get you a sandwich.
Okay, so open fences is, picket. And I'm just gonna write down the types that we have, and then we can talk about whether to include them or not before we move on. So we have,
Picket and pointed?
oh, no, hold on,
Okay.
flat, with cap, pointed, staggered, I mean, is the staggered top typically a flat, or it's like a half of a
flat.
stop sign?
It's flat.
Haven't I seen them, they look like half of a stop,
Yeah.
what, three-sided tetra, I don't know what you call it.
Yeah.
Bill, haven't you
They're
seen them?
flat.
That's pointed.
It's not, it's like,
You're out of your mind, that's pointed.
Well, my grandfather's fence is more like that.
What would we call that?
I don't know, but I don't think that we have to get this
Okay,
specific,
that's
but
right
keep
here.
going.
That's the top rail.
Okay, well, let me,
That's the top rail, right?
yeah.
Okay, that's what it says here. Well,
Okay, so we have, picket, flat with cap, pointed, staggered top, flat, staggered top, angle cut, various.
Uh-huh.
Are any of these that we think should not be recommended as approvable anywhere on the islands?
I would say that top rail. They're out very from around because they're not used in a fence. These, so that top rail
Cap.
pipe is
Cap.
used on a porch or stairs.
Cap,
Yeah.
the
flat
other
cap.
one. No, that's a rail, the other one's a cap.
This one.
Yeah.
Yeah, cap, yeah.
Okay.
I think there aren't many of these around. They've been.
Okay, the rail, so no
expensive.
rail, no fence with a rail on the top.
Well, there are a few. You can find them on Cliff Road or up in the Gulf, Wisconsin.
All right.
You know, they say it's
I didn't even know
it's
any
a special thing they
existed.
put in years ago when they're building
So
summer
we
houses.
can, so John, what do you think we can capture those under, house style specific?
Put down other style. Of course, no, that needs to open.
Yeah, that's why I was worried. I learned that from you.
No.
I think it's important to say these are typical or more common styles
That's what, yeah.
to
Okay.
identify every single.
I'm trying to just facilitate,
Yeah.
yeah. I'm
Okay,
with
you got four types in the book. If you go back to, we're gonna use part of this. You got the picket you got up top, you got with molded cap, no cap, the top rail.
Okay, so those are up here. Are there any of these that you think should never be approved anywhere on the islands? Don't look at your book. This has nothing to do with your book.
If I had to say, and I would say the top rail, but they're gonna go out and find them.
Okay.
Take pictures.
So, but that's not on our list. Is there any on this list that you think should never be approved?
That with the cap, pointing.
Stagger top we just did.
This
Just
one.
show them the picture.
And there are some anomalies, but we don't need to promote them.
Or preclude them.
Yeah, this-
So the note would say, I get what you're saying, I'm just trying to
I
manage.
know.
This stuff on ships in.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, as I say, if you have an existing in an area, but you know, what we're gonna describe, if somebody says, well, I have something that's a little bit different, all right, and you say, well, we'll view it. What's in the area? Well, we view, you know, to what's in an area. You can't go, like they keep bringing pictures from Sconset for Nantucket. You gotta say, you know, within 300 feet
Right.
or 200 feet. You gotta say, I think we should set a distance, you know, and then that way, that protects us as well. on the
Okay.
board.
Okay.
Other types may be approved subject to historic. The more he writes, the smaller it gets,
Does that kind of address what yours, that can, you know, like that and what John's saying and, so, you know, we're not gonna name every single fence that's
What's that
approved.
bottom line?
says-
Subject to historic?
Individual applications, other types fences may be approved subject to historic or other reference if accepted by the commission.
No,
So,
because you're right of free thinking.
okay,
3 out of 2.
would you show them that picture of the one that you showed me is,
Yeah.
like maybe that one and then the other one you showed me that had the,
Oh. Yeah.
That means we make exceptions.
any of those that you just
And
went through.
but because they exist, that, like, see how this is on Center Street. Marge Baker's old property had like a paddock type fence in front of it.
Yeah.
Can I look at, one other one.
No, just in the middle.
And
I'm not
here's
sure.
another one, I don't know where this is, but
Here.
That one has a
John,
board that goes into the, isn't that cool?
So these are types of fences that someone could come in and they'd have to make their case.
We could tell them no.
You could tell them no, but they'd have to come in and make their case. So if someone were able to, if someone were able to prove
Yeah.
that that style of fence,
Okay, if he's within 200 feet of another one.
That. This one
Okay.
goes round on the
No,
corner.
you say look,
however you want it,
what's existing has nothing to do with before the HDC. That's all you tell them. You say this is before the HDC, no, and it's not one of our approved types.
so maybe we're just subject to historic reference.
Whatever, you know, break it down and it'll be simple when we get done with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
that's a riot, it's like
It's a person
solid
right
on the
there.
bottom and attic on the
Yeah.
top.
So are you okay with that, John?
Historic reference. It shouldn't say other types may be approved. That leaves it open to discussion that we can grant a variance. There's no word in this law, whole book for the word variance.
Yeah, it's, actually, that's not correct. That, I don't wanna
The book's
call,
not correct, or I'm not correct?
I'm not gonna call you out on national TV, but,
There's a time for that, okay.
yeah.
I-
I think that this gives us an opportunity on a legal basis to be able to say, we're not precluding every single other type of fence, because there are, okay, look, let's approach it a different way. Historically, looking at the historic pictures, 1840s and stuff,
Right.
there are other types of fences than are on this list. The HDC, I think, as a responsible party, public body, needs to be able to approve a fence that was historically correct. But we don't need to advertise it that way. What we're advertising, in a sense, is what's approvable generally. And then there's a little footnote to address that if somebody can prove or provide a historical reference, the HDC may approve it. It doesn't say they shall approve it. So there's an opportunity to say no. The whole idea with all this stuff is to be able to get people to open the book, go through it, make selections, fill out their application, and have John put it on consent. Because it's all approvable.
Right.
We can't be sitting here
Now, somebody's gonna have to be.
10 hours a week.
That goes out, before it's good to do that, but if we don't, if we make that a regulation, it can be variable on the commission's decision of after what's already laid out. They can say, within 200 feet.
Okay, I got an idea. How's this?
I'm just being negative as well as possible.
The 200 feet thing I'll address in a minute. And certain limited,
You will get your magnifying glass, or I'm going blind, one or the other. In certain limited circumstances,
Oops.
other
All right.
types may be approved subject to what?
Historic
Oh,
reference.
historic reference.
Historic reference, if they have reference to it, right.
Right.
Right, but I say, if this had 200 feet,
Okay, so let's,
That's all.
can we deal with this 200 feet thing? Because I disagree with you. And I want Val's input first. What do you think of the 200 feet?
I think in town proper, it's actually a good idea to have a certain area, because I get what you're saying. Sometimes somebody brings in something that's in another part of town. And yes, it exists, but it's not existing in that particular area. So are we gonna introduce something new? Or are we gonna,
Okay. I get you.
maybe it's not identified by 200 or 300 square feet, maybe it's by the district.
So, and that's where I wanted to, I'm
Yeah.
trying to understand more about the 200 feet. So maybe, John,
John's saying, examples that are pertinent to the
Right.
immediate area.
so what Val's interpretation and her thoughts are that what you're saying with the 200 feet is that you're looking for context
right,
in a certain area. You don't want someone to bring in something that's, let's just say these are, can we do this a little different?
okay.
Just for a thought exercise? red, yellow, green, blue. Someone wants to bring in purple. Well, you're saying no purple if there's none within 200 feet, right?
Main Street.
Oh, 200 feet, no purple. If you want purple, you can't have purple unless that's within 200 feet. This is my concern with, I don't disagree with you, but I want to articulate my concern. It's kind of like, if everything is required to be what's next to it, eventually everything looks the same.
Homogeneous.
So my concern is homogeny. But I understand your point, so this is what I would ask you to consider. Is that subject to, in certain limited circumstance, other types may be approved subject to historic reference and context.
And what?
Context.
Context.
Context, okay.
So that it's saying that, because what we're trying to do here is also direct future HDCs to keep it like this, not like this. Oh yeah, you can have purple, magenta, tangerine, Earl Grey mixed with blue, whatever you want.
Yeah.
We're trying to keep the focus down. Do you think that this helps accomplish what you guys are talking about with the 200
I think
feet or
it's
no?
good to have,
Now we're talking about fences.
Yeah, I know, we're not talking about T, but.
Now we get offside, yeah. All right, I'll answer
Oh,
that.
wait a minute, Val was talking, so I want to.
no, go ahead. I was just saying, I think that's good to have some kind of an asterisk somewhere
Right.
that says, there is gonna be situations that come up, the bricks have metal fencing and.
Yeah, well, and don't forget, the other thing
Yeah,
is,
yeah.
in the rules, it says that in the historic districts, offense, materials should be consistent with the style of architecture or something
Yeah,
like that.
yeah.
So we're not gonna do away with that rule, we're just adding
Okay.
we're kind of broadening out direction for people to follow. We're not axing old rules because they're important. Does that work for you?
Yeah.
Okay.
We're going back to 200 feet. We have just that bottom thing, okay? All right, section C.
Okay.
Oh, the
I just-
state
you
law.
just kill me, I mean, we can
Yeah.
talk for an hour and you don't.
The commission shall not make any recommendation except for the purpose of preventing developments incongruous, not keeping within an existing area, or incongruous to the historic aspects of the surroundings and the historic Nantucket. If you got 200 feet, you can't take a fence that's way the hell over here and say you can have it there.
Right, but
Can't
John, this language itself helps the HDC from not doing that. We don't need to say you can only have, why is it 200 feet? Why isn't it 81 feet and 3 inches?
Yeah.
Why wouldn't it be? The front of a house in town is 50 feet wide, the lots are maybe 50 feet wide, so you could go 4 houses to either side, or 3.5 houses to either side, and that's the only fence you can have. So under the rule you're proposing,
Okay, I'm listening.
under the rule you're proposing, I can't get enough houses in. If you're this house, let's just do this. We shouldn't have to do this, John, but I will, because I get what you're saying. This house fence can only look like these three and these three. This house fence can only look, this house fence can only look like these three and these three. You get the idea? You go all the way down the line, and eventually, the only thing you're gonna have is one style of fence, if it can only be 200 feet. And I don't think that that's what you're trying to do. I think what you're trying to do is make sure that this fence this fence, this fence, this fence. Not, all these fences are not incongruent with the historical character. And I think that between this and the language in there, how's this?
Write it big enough, you can read it from here. I'm going blind as it is, you know? So long.
What was it you said? What? Read me just the sentence about incongruence.
Preventing developments incongruous to the historic aspects of the surroundings and Nantucket district, the whole district.
I mean, we're getting way too.
A neighborhood.
Well, it's the district. That's not what that says. That says the districts.
Right. It's, you know, the surroundings and the historic district, right.
I texted you before. I thought so too. I was checking in on you a while back.
Okay. That should address what you're saying. Individual applications, in certain limited circumstances, other types may be approved subject to historic reference and context. If accepted by the commission and not incongruent to the historic character of the districts and in accordance with any applicable HCC's rules, regulations, and guidelines. 200 feet makes all these fences the same. It doesn't accomplish what words accomplish. So we'll pick this up. I think what we'll end up doing is we'll pick this up as a broader statement for all the modules.
Yeah.
So this isn't going to be every single module has these words. You're going to see it, fences, roofs, railings, solar panels, all that. No, it's going to be one statement in that context that says, so this will say approvable fences. See, what's that section?
This is section C.
Is appendix C or that's the act?
That's the act.
So one will say something like
Right from the state, right here.
Appendix A.
1. C, appendix A, section C. What paragraph?
Section C, it's, there's no paragraph.
Just count them.
Section 2A, section 3, section 3, it says. Okay.
Which paragraph?
And which paragraph?
Yeah, just count the paragraphs.
Okay, 1.
No, appendix A, section 3. No, appendix A. And then which, section 2.
Section 3.
So it's where's the
3.
words itself?
Section 2. See, section 3 starts here.
Okay, section
This
3.
is the bottom of section 3.
Okay, so-
Third paragraph.
Section 3,
2,
1.
3.
No, section 3, paragraph 1.
That's what I said.
I can't remember what the paragraph
You better give him a pen, it's getting smaller and smaller.
Okay. So the idea is that we do
Section,
appendix A, section C, 3, paragraph 1. And that's up here. Approvable fences and
Okay.
gates. See this. And
what's this 3 for? Section 3,
no, it's section C, 3.
section 3. Third paragraph. First
I
paragraph.
thought you said that there was a C.
Section
I'm
3,
gonna shoot myself in the head.
right here.
Yeah.
First paragraph.
Okay, we gotta, okay. I think we did enough with that.
What's after the 3?
John, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. We're not writing the book right now.
Okay.
This says to look at that book, the paragraph you just mentioned,
Right.
and it gives you the reason,
Okay.
which is that the whole point of this part of the exercise, which is going on way too long, is that there are approvable fences and gates. These are the approvable styles, which we got to work through this list today. So I don't want to have a bunch of more questions like getting off the rails.
Okay, we've got 5.
Wait a minute.
Okay.
These are the types. These are the exceptions and how they're addressed. We'll use this similar language wherever there might be an exception in any of the modules, so that it can be in one place in the recommendation and not in every single module littered like salt and pepper everywhere. Okay? So I think it's important we did that, but let's please get back to the fences.
So you got 5.
Yeah. Is there any other you want to see open?
Negative.
Or picket, I mean.
There's 14 different types of fences.
Stop, please.
That's what I'm saying.
Wait a minute. Hold on.
Right.
Any other picket types you want to see?
I think that's a very good broad stroke of what's generally acceptable, and the rest can come under the asterisks.
Okay. Split. What do we call the other one? It's not split rail, just open rail, or what do you want to call those?
Well, like the paddock fences?
Yeah,
or,
and the split rail and the rounded mortise and,
what do you call those? I would call those like,
I mean, they're open fences, but they're a rail and post fence.
yeah.
Post and rail.
Now, post and rail could be if you got horses.
Yes,
Right.
and we're
You
gonna
use
talk,
a full rail fence, flat. You don't use, split rail, you don't use that.
okay,
Horses go right over.
we're gonna talk about that now. So post and rail, what are the fence types we have? We have a split.
Mm-hmm.
I guess.
We've always, we'll put it this way, if I can remember, we've used 3 and 4 rail fences for animals, small animals, pigs, whatever, and the four rail for the horses. And that's the 2 fences they've ever had for containment,
I think you might wanna look in this book.
yeah.
That's one rail.
Yeah, okay,
The only exception I would make to that, even though there's historic context, is painting it white. I'd leave it natural to weather.
We didn't think about colors. Call. Okay, so before I go through the hassle of, so split rail, 2 rail, 3 rail, board, and we said post and board. Is there other, 1 rail?
Yeah.
It's just, we don't have to call it that, but just to be descriptive. So post with a flat board rail.
It says a split rail fence or log fence is also known as zigzag, worm, or snake fence historically because of its meandering layout following the topography of the land.
Oh, that's interesting.
split rail after add paddle ends. Because you've got up there, you have the second, you've got split rail, 1, 2, 3, rail, and then the next one is, what is that?
Peg and Morris.
Post
Right, but-
and mortise,
Okay, so this is, I wanna just, can I give you a little bit of
post and
a,
mortise are round.
right, and this is, can I give you a little,
Sure.
okay, so peg and mortise are rounds. a split rail fence is typically always gonna have a paddle end because it's split. And the nature of the fence is that it's split. Typically, you know, in the old days, as you
With an
know,
axe.
with an axe. Now they're machined that way, but they don't go from a split post and rail to a round end. They're always gonna be a split, it's always gonna be a paddle end. So I suggest to you that a split rail is okay to use without saying paddle end, because if it's split, it's gonna have a paddle end. Like an orange fruit is typically orange. A split rail fence is typically gonna have a paddle end. So can we work with that for now at least?
Yeah, but if you put posted rail with that second one down, what is it?
Post and flat board rail. So like in that Quidnet
So,
picture.
a flat board will not be a modest end, right? It's flat.
Right, yeah, is that, right, exactly, you got it. That makes sense to you?
You're
That
not
good?
having it there, if you don't mention it, they won't see it.
Well, we're gonna
Yeah.
put them up here, and then we're gonna talk about it. Is there any other post and rail fence that you can think of?
Post and rail, let me go back now. I'm thinking down at the, what do you call it down there at
Like
the end of Washington Street. There's a picture looking towards Orange Street, where we used to own next to Cumberland. There's nothing there but that one house, we lived in it, you know?
Yeah, what was the type of fence?
The fence was a flat three rail because there's cows in the water up to here.
Oh, I know what you mean.
What do you call that? And do we want to avoid that?
So that would be a post and, okay, I got you.
Those fences were, where Valero was now, and the,
I'm
the
listening.
crossing hatches. And there was all water where Marine Number is now. There was all water right up to Orange Street.
Yeah.
So, you know, in the picture, it shows that, and, it was before the railroad train, so they had that, pictures before, they put the train in 1884, and they had it till 1917, they took it to the, First World War.
Yeah.
So, it was before, that picture was before, I'll say 1884, something like that.
Okay, so I think what I would suggest, Val, is that would be one that goes under here.
Yeah, get rid of it.
So then we could leave this as wood rails, flat board, as a potentially approvable one, a lot more
Get rid
wide.
of the second one.
Well, give me a second.
Okay,
I'm with you. So this could just say, that could be like that. Okay, so that's open fences, picket.
okay.
Actually. And
We're
just,
solid.
primarily, right. So before we do that, let's try and make some headway here. Again, I can't write crooked, so. Okay. Open fences. Picket. Flat. Flat with cap and pointed. We're gonna do all three at once on this one, because I think we can. Those are all approvable in the old historic district?
What's below,
Flat with cap and pointed.
Yes.
Oh, three, only gonna do three,
I'm doing 3 for the moment.
okay.
Those are approvable in the old historic districts, our OHD and the SOHD in terms of what our recommendation is?
I agree.
Okay, so. Yes. 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 I presume that if they're approvable here, they're approvable here?
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
What's that second Y for?
This is the other areas,
Oh, other
suburban
areas.
and rural.
Okay, all right.
Staggered top,
Yes.
yes and yes. Flat and angle cut varieties.
Oh, yeah, all right, you got number, the bottom one.
4.
Next one.
4A and B are, staggered top is
Okay,
This
no, the other one, is the last one on that.
angle cut.
angle cut, so it's like this.
Okay, the angle cap, all right? We had that problem last night, if you remember.
No, that's different.
It's got the same cut,
That's on the posts,
right?
and that's not a fence itself, that was the post of the gate.
Right,
So what John's talking about is the, granite
Yes.
prong fence came in with chamfered post tops.
apples in the road.
Chamfered would be that,
No, I know what it is.
for Kathy.
Okay.
I don't know, so yeah.
Sure. So chamfered would be, this is the post top, and instead of coming straight down,
It's got a slight angle to it.
it comes down on an angle.
Oh,
So if you're looking at it from the side, it looks like this
Got that extra cut.
And
versus,
sometimes on
square.
posts, on porches, they flatten the
Yeah.
sides, that's chamfered.
I, I'm gonna suggest that posts are gonna come in. This is something we didn't address.
Not in the old HTC.
Okay, hold on one second. One
I
of the
think that's the only place that is appropriate.
posts.
What?
The,
With that cap on it?
with the staggered,
I think we're bored. We need a note section. Go ahead, you guys talk.
I think that I've only seen those in the older part of town, not necessarily in Mid-Island or anywhere else.
I hope your camera can catch that. But
yeah.
I forgot what the hell it was. Oh,
Well, no.
well, the lawyer's gonna make a lot of money if that goes through. Appeal.
a butt. A butt. How do you spell a butt? A butt or
APUTT?
Okay, so those are the questions that we're gonna have to address before we finalize this is, paint materials in terms of recommendations, and I'd suggest, and whether the rail abuts a butt or over the post.
Who?
So one of the things we're gonna have to address is, do you have that one that shows the, like the one where the posts butts, the picket butts into the post top? Yeah. that's
Like
a-
this?
Oh, that's a better one. So John, we're gonna have to address this too, like,
Okay,
and I think my suggestion would be that we address that,
up on Main Street, this,
with a, what do you think about just a broad, that would be a broad, these would be broad statements under something like this. So it needs to be applicable to, congruent with the design of this and the particular residence. So that we're not having fences like that
all over the place.
all over the place in areas that are kind of more suburban.
Right,
Does that make sense?
yeah.
So we'll put those down there. Okay.
no, read that again, stop. Right there.
We're gonna put paint and materials and the rail, whether it abuts the post or it goes over it,
Yeah,
under a general comment, which is it needs to be congruent with the design of the home and the context of the neighborhood. Is that okay?
Whether it's got a cap on it or not, doesn't matter, I don't think.
I just think of you ladies, and
Alright.
then it gives me
I'll
forward.
repeat that,
Depends on way more.
I can't see that, what's it say?
Okay, so what it says is paint materials, question mark, rail, abutting, or over the post, question mark, will be addressed in a manner congruent with design of the home and the context of the neighborhood.
Okay.
Is that okay?
The fence you just pulled out is your typical Wisconsin fence.
Right, so
It
ensconce
fits in
so,
Woodbury.
so what this says is that you can have it approved in Wisconsin, but you can't have it approved in Woodbury. Just
Right.
joking. But-
Rural area.
A rural area. We wouldn't put that fence in front of our house because it's not appropriate. And what this says is that it's not appropriate to put a purple fence that looks like that in front of John McLaughlin's house. So that when you, John McLaughlin, pick up the guidebook, you'll be able to look through it and say, oh, I can't have a purple fence
I know,
that looks like that with the,
I understand what you're
okay,
saying.
good. So stagger top, we're back to our stagger top. Is this,
I think only in the old part of town.
yeah, I'm with you. John, stagger top only in Old Town? Stagger top, well, only in Old Town or, see, this is where it's,
Staggered top?
what about if you're doing it in this situation?
I've never ever seen it anywhere but town.
Okay, so we'll just say in town.
Yeah.
So stagger top fence and
This,
the OHDs.
that type. I've never seen it outside of the OHD.
It's only been in the OHD, right?
That's your ship's end.
Yes, but the.
Yeah,
fence-
but it's on Pleasant Street all over the place too,
Right, yeah,
including Papa's house.
yeah, there's a few here, a few there, but, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you good with that in
Or
town?
do you want to eliminate it and it comes in under the reference and context?
My only concern is if we eliminate it, then we're not gonna ever have it.
Okay.
It's gonna be, I think just that natural tendency of the animal, human nature is it's not one of the options, so people aren't gonna see it, people aren't necessarily gonna think it's approvable, they don't wanna have to pay someone to come in here and bring it to the HTC and make their case or look up pictures. Or, on the other side of the table, literally, HTC members don't see it as an approvable option, so they think it has a higher standard to meet, and I think it should be I believe it should be an approvable option.
Okay.
John, do you believe it should be an approvable option in the old historic district, the ones Vale showed you pictures of?
Yeah, some of them there, yes.
Okay, so you're on board or you're not? You gotta write stuff down, we gotta get moving.
Yes, 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 under OHD.
The staggered ones bother me in one respect, you know,
How?
of its age, they're not that old.
I
Going
would-
back to, remember, everybody talks about 1800s. The biggest 100 years, because it's all whaling,
Right,
till 1850.
right.
And that's when they had all different kinds of stuff here, that they individual taste, because there's no HDC.
Right, which
Oh,
is
so
when.
we should not
Oh
have
my
it because
God.
it's historical.
So wait a minute, so what you're really saying is that if it's independent free will, then you can't have it. It's gotta be something that fits in a box. That's what you just said.
It's gonna fix in the box.
It's, you just said that fences that are historical in nature, literal, I mean, another way of saying it is that fences that are historical in nature, you can't have them. There wasn't an HDC back then.
No, got,
No, I'm not going with that.
before 1955, all right, that's when the HDC started.
No.
Anything you see in pictures before that is not historical, all of them.
How about the
Oh, dear
1800s stuff
God.
and the 1920s stuff?
How can you what?
I think you're getting off track in here. Is this? We're gonna vote yes for stagger top, flat, and angle cut in the historic district,
Right.
because there's historical precedence for it. Are you on board with us?
Yes.
Okay, you're the man.
And
We're-
no,
Go ahead. And we're gonna say no in the other areas. Right?
Say it again?
We're gonna say yes here,
Yeah.
and we're gonna say no. Those were looking more like
Why you
X's.
put yes up if you?
That was a yeah, those are all yeses from before. This is a no. So no staggered top.
Okay, you're gonna have 3.4.
This, you really don't need to have this.
The lower three, you can get rid of.
I'm gonna have to leave at 3, I'm just saying.
Okay. So that's where we are with that. Post and rail, split rail fence.
Actually, that typically does not need approval.
So, for split rail.
But
Well,
the
do you
misconception.
really want that to be like that?
Well,
In the OHD, I thought it had to be approved.
I know, you and I had this conversation, and I'm not sure.
Again, as the John said.
Yeah.
I think we should make a recommendation whether it should be approvable or not.
Valerie, where's a picture of the 3-rail fence? You got one there? Somewhere.
John, we need to move through this because I'm running out of
Steve.
steam and we're gonna run out of steam. We gotta get on a better track. We can't do 3 weeks a module. We need to be doing 2 week, we need to be doing a module every week and a half.
Yeah.
So, the question is, understanding what the comment was made that split rail is typically approvable anywhere without has
That's
been.
a 4-rail.
Well, wait a minute.
That's all.
So let me just explore this box a little bit. How, maybe I'm misunderstanding, but if you build anything on Nantucket that's an architectural element that's visible from a public way,
The only
you're
thing,
required to get an approval.
well, it's been known, and it might be in the guidebook, the only thing you don't need a permit or approval for is a split rail fence.
Except the OHD, but
Okay, so let's take that as, at face value. And my suggestion is that as a recommendation, we're looking at everything with a new set of eyes, the information with a new set of eyes. And I think for consistency's sake, we would say yes or no in the historic district, yes or no in the other areas. And then we would work through how that relates to past precedent as part of the package. Because it's weird, it just seems weird to me in making a recommendation to leave one out and say it's excluded everywhere. Plus, I don't really see split rail fence on Main Street, like by the 3 bricks. And if you don't need a permit for it, someone could come in, I'm not saying they would, but someone could technically come in and do that. So I think it should be, the
So
rule should
then
be
what
something.
you do is under OHD and SOHD, you put yes, no,
Yeah,
and in the other areas, yes.
that's
Okay.
what it currently is.
And if people come in and apply for it, they should be able to get that right at the desk,
right,
approval.
yes, I agree.
That would be an immediate approval.
Well, the idea is that all of these are an immediate approval,
So they
under
don't have to-
consent.
Okay. No, I disagree. I don't think in suburban and rural that you should have to apply for that.
Okay, so let me put,
Yeah, true, and they don't.
Right.
They typically don't. They would ask them where they live.
I think this chart will tell you, yes, it's appropriate.
so my suggestion is that you would get an expedited permit.
Well, they don't need a permit.
I understand that, but as a matter of law and a matter of dealing with these things consistently, to have one thing that's just not, you don't have to have any paperwork on it, is, you can have you can have so for instance, a flat board fence, if we say it's approvable, out here, why would you not be able to put a rail with flat boards versus a rail that's split?
Because a rail with flat boards is typically painted.
Right, but if it's approved as natural in all the areas, the point isn't the specific of whether it's painted or not, the point is, shouldn't all, if you go, I'm not suggesting they have to do anything else, but they would just get an expedited COA so that it's a record somewhere that it's approved. That's all I'm suggesting, for consistency.
Okay.
But, and
We can discuss it with the board.
we can discuss with the board, yeah. I'm just pointing out
Yeah.
something in terms of
So
consistency.
then I would say no in OHD and SOHD,
For the split rail?
yeah.
And are you good with a no split rail in the OH?
Post and rail, first of all, take the one out of there. There's no such thing as a one rail fence.
Okay,
You gotta paint right there.
there's a picture of it right there,
Right there,
Oh, yeah.
right there.
right there.
And
And
on
it's-
the back too.
And it's in the Sconset books too.
Right,
I think that's one rail.
okay. Okay. You tell them there's no such thing as a one rail fence. Now, today, you can't have them.
Why? Because they used to have them in the old days that we're trying to protect, you can't have them now?
Don't you know what this was for? That top rail fence only?
Yeah, it went all around their property. Look at the other pictures in there.
There's other pictures, yeah, there's my grandfather.
Okay, John, hey, we gotta get moving here. Split rail fence. 1, 2, or 3 rails. No in the historic district, John?
Two rails.
Yes.
That's one rail. See?
One at the top, one on the bottom.
Oh, I see, okay, gotcha.
John,
Pay attention to Steve.
Yes,
we gotta move. Val's gotta leave at 3, and we've gotta get through this. We're not gonna
you gotta use a 4 there though. 1, 2, 3, and 4. 4 is a horse fence as well as a 3. Yeah, I'm just saying, make a suggestion, that's all.
Okay. I don't have an issue with that. I just trying to. Split rail fence, peg and mortise fence, post and rail with a flat board fence in the old historic districts, Sconset and downtown.
No.
No.
See that post and rail?
This one,
The-
this is Sconset. Look at that.
Right.
Four flat boards on a post.
Yeah, that's fine, 4. 4 rail,
In Sconset, the old historic district?
that's where it is.
So you think we should have it in the Sconset Old Historic District?
So I think we should.
Yeah, I'm asking you.
If they have animals, that's the only answer. It's an animal fence.
Okay, so
It's only a suggestion. You
I got you.
leave it, yeah.
This is for discussion with the group.
The more he writes, the more bigger the permit's gonna be.
So animal fence would be 3 and 4 rails. This is a yes?
Mm-hmm.
Peg and mortise.
Is that the one he was talking
Yes.
about? I don't think in the old historic, no.
I would know that one, yeah, right.
And I'm kind of a no here too. What do you think?
Yeah.
Okay. The flat board, I think, is the same as the split rail.
Yeah.
Okay.
And what do you call it, a post and rail?
Post and rail is the one that we've been looking at.
This one.
Yeah, okay, that's post
Okay.
and rail in our opinion, all right.
Okay, we got 10 minutes to get through the next section. Closed fences, AKA south. We have a 6-foot board. We have a 5-foot board and 1-foot lattice, which else do we have?
We have board with,
Spindle,
spindles.
okay.
We have the board, and we have the lattice on the diagonal. We're trying to eliminate that, I guess.
I'm kind of running out of room, should I put it on here?
No. I think that's it. I mean, a board fence, irregardless of the height.
Yeah. Yeah, because that'll
And
be
then
picked
just-
up.
Yeah, just,
Now, one change. 5-foot board and one lattice, you gotta put in there.
Yeah, we'll,
You gotta be technical about that.
yeah, but
Except
no
it's
more
right
than
here.
cross-
yeah, show them that.
Yeah,
diagonal.
Diagonal.
That was before the HDC.
Yeah, so you can't have it.
So I think the plain board should be 4 to 6 feet. It could be the same category.
That's a great idea. And these should be, may I suggest, 4 foot max front.
Mm-hmm.
Front. Let's say, let's say front.
there's no fluke fences either.
It's on the list, so.
So these are 4 foot, John.
Yeah.
These are 4 to 6. Board, this is
5 and 1.
board with or without cap. You okay with or without cap?
Yeah, because there's plenty of examples both ways.
Okay. So that's a yes in the old historic districts. Don't forget, it's subject to this stuff.
Right.
And is a yes in the old historic district? Yes?
Yeah.
On lattice board, yeah.
Okay. And a yes and a
Yeah.
yes. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Good job.
But yeah.
Please.
Yeah. So the interesting thing on that one is that there'll be another, however we delineate it. In the old historic, those fences are okay in the front. In certain circumstances, in the other areas, we only want them as the privacy fences in the back. Am I right?
Yeah, yep. And I'm just gonna use 4 for now up
Okay.
there. And then down here, our notes are kind of, I didn't know where we were gonna stop,
No, I
so I
know.
started notes on the bottom. So notes, 1, 2, 3, 4 is subject to fence, typical fence location diagram.
You should be 3 minutes.
I said you more than that.
I got it.
Yeah.
So that
We'll go right up.
this
Yeah.
refers to this.
Yes.
Is that cool?
Yeah.
I think that's a really good point.
Yeah. And we didn't even get to pool fences.
Now, who's gonna sit around?
We should talk about we should do that more. Thank you for bringing that up.
I mean, I can go over a little, but
So the pool fence is gonna be open. So this is gonna be A -1. And actually, should we call it something else? Should we call it 4? Let me float this. 3 to 6 foot wire mesh. To post.
You can have 3 to 6 foot around the pool.
Well, hold on a second, because I want to talk about that, because 3 to 6 foot wire mesh to post. Does it matter what the spacing is? Because it's going to be, I presume that this is going to be subject to not being visible. So we don't have to say what the mesh grade is.
It could be chain link, like a tennis court, 10 feet high.
Oh, we didn't even do, yeah, we should,
That's right.
All right, well, you wanna eke over to the other board?
well, let's deal with one at a time.
All right.
A1, 3 to 6 foot wire mesh to post. We're typically calling that a pool fence, but it's also a deer. I'm not even gonna put a height. Because it's at 4 feet, it's being used as a pool fence. At 4 to 10 feet, in
So-
Tom Nevers, it's being used as a deer fence or security fence. So the question is it approvable, subject to not being visible at the time of inspection or thereafter?
Yeah, and I think that, I wouldn't offer 10 feet.
Well, no, I'm just saying, that's why I didn't put a height
Yeah.
there, but, I mean, I don't know what they're, Tom Nevers, I've seen some pretty tall fences. So, this would be,
No.
no, and a yes. And this would be 5. Wire mesh to post, and chain link. I know, I maybe not put the and there, but let's explore it. If you have a tennis court fence, how are we doing that?
I think a tennis court is an individual entity in and of itself, or courts, paddle courts, whatever, it's a different topic.
So,
I don't wanna introduce chain link as an option for fencing.
gotcha, okay, I get you. So,
No option.
so let's do this as,
That is specific to its use.
Also, if it's visible, glass fences and glass gates. You gotta knock, you know.
That was last
But-
night.
Now, and I see,
The glass gate.
yeah, now I'm saying inside the old historic areas, all 3 of them, you know.
Yeah.
None of that glass stuff.
I wouldn't even put it on
And
there.
the wire fences, the wire fence, the metal fences, you know, if they, you know, that's why we be very careful about viewing.
Well, yeah.
I'm not sure how to say it, court fences independent, or, court fences,
Are specific to their use.
right, but, I mean, relative to this, it would be,
Court fences, typically, you have to come in and apply for them, because remember like when somebody wanted it right on Pulpus Road?
yeah,
Court fences are, on a case-by-case basis, or individual application based on location or due to location.
okay, that's cool. So,
Oh, okay.
are there any, go ahead, are there any, are there any other fences that we think we might need to add?
All lawns have to be green.
I don't water mine.
No, not if you spray Roundup on it, so you don't have to mow it.
Use a blue grass.
Okay, so I think we're good with this. Are you guys good with this?
Yes, I'm taking a picture.
Okay, so, while you're taking pictures, solar, we didn't get to again. And then we should, because we can't actually talk about this outside of our little group, because where it'd be a forum. What are you thinking about presentation on this? You mentioned you're doing
I'm trying to do the drawings,
okay.
even if they're just for example purposes.
Okay. And will you add in this space so that we're bringing up the concept of a
Privacy
privacy fence
within the
within
rural
a,
context.
yes, a big suburban or rural.
Steve, you're gonna send me those emails on those 2 things, right?
Which,
Your drawings last week.
yeah, I took a picture of this, I'll send it to you, and I'll take a picture and
I
I'll send you
know,
this.
isn't it funny?
You can't see it?
No, because
It's
it's
there,
there
but
for
the
Okay,
Yeah,
let's
right.
move it. Let's move it.
Put the lights out.
I can turn the light off.
Oh, yeah, well, I'm just concerned it'll be too dark. Oh, do.
If this doesn't work out, I'm gonna blame the both of you.
To what?
Whatever goes wrong.
Oh.
Them are nice photos, you're doing your job, that's good. That's great.
Okay. So,
Want to take a better picture of it?
yeah, I gotta snap a picture. It's way
No, I
better.
got one.
Actually, I gotta go get my camera and I'll come back. My
I
phone's in my
can
phone.
email it to you.
Can I see it, how clear it is? Do you mind? Well, I'm gonna have to write it down, so.
I'm gonna go look at the picture.
Oh,
I can email it to you.
no, that's great. That's super.
Want me to email it to you? Okay.
Yeah, that'd be good.
Um,
Will you email him the one from the last meeting too?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
now, a printer can take something 8 by 10 and make it 11 by 17, is it, something bigger?
Okay.
Those three that you sent
Thank
me.
you.
I sent you more than 5. I sent
So,
you like a total of 6.
One,
For
two,
what?
three.
I'll show you.
I guess what I'd like to do is maybe we could
My
do
computer doesn't do everything, so
maybe at the next meeting
Come back
we
to me and I'll
could
print
put
them
our
for
heads
you.
together
Can I
on
print them for you?
Another
images
thing
and the
too.
text.
No, don't worry about it. You can come over and I'll
Are you
print them for
doing,
you.
are you doing a diagram with text or
I'll
what are
print
you,
this for
I
you
guess I'm
too.
just trying to figure
I'm
out
just
what.
gonna try to put together what we have outlined here, and then we can finesse it.
Yeah, if you
Okay,
can do
that's
that
cool.
in
It's
the,
easier to look at.
11
Yeah, I
by
mean, it's
17,
like we
that's
can't
what I had.
present it that
I never
way.
use it.
Okay, just because we don't get a chance to talk about
I know.
this, so,
I know.
okay. So now that we're on the same page. All right, is there any other, comments? Anything you guys want to cover before we go?
Yes. When I die,
Yes.
maybe 4 years from now, maybe 4 minutes from now, take sure a copy of all this is put in my grave.
Oh,
Burn it.
God.
Yeah, put it in the crematorium with me, I take it
All
with me.
right.
See, next time you stand up to write on the thing, keep your hat on, there's a glare on the light
From my head, on my head.
through your head.
Thank you for letting me know that. It's very
Yeah,
important information.
I've seen it looking at
This
it.
group is falling apart.
Valerie, thank you.
Motion to adjourn?
Yes,
Yes.
I'd entertain and
Motion to
Look
adjourn.
at that, that's yours, that's yours.
thank you guys. I appreciate it.
I don't know, problem.
We'll work it out.
John, we're gonna keep you on track if it kills me in 4 minutes or 4 years.
That's good, yeah, that's-
Oh, I wanna ask you about that.
Oh, okay. Wearing my Swedish World Cup shirt
Oh.
today.
Nice.
Swedish, yeah.
They won the game.
Yeah.
World Cup in it.
I've never watched soccer in my life, only because they're here.
Kathy, thank you.
You're welcome. Come over and I'll print them for you. I'll print the minutes for you.
I'll drive over, I got my car here.
Yes.
I should have walked with you, huh?
The time
You
went.
pick this up, see how heavy that is. You know.
I lift weights, so
Oh, really?
that's pretty heavy.
But I have a tough
Okay,
old
so
Irish
that
man, I never
property
give
that
up.
you brought in. John, let's chat farms when we're outside.
Well, the next meeting is next Thursday, Wednesday.
No, we're not meeting this 4th of July.
You can come, but no one's
That's
gonna
the
be
4th
there.
of July next Wednesday?
Yeah, you're gonna come here and set up a
Another
barbecue.
day in my life, that's all.
You're gonna come set up a barbecue for us?
And I gotta get my fireworks, I got tons of it.
Keys in my car.
I hope they're not too few.
Say hi to Lisa, I'll be right over.
Oh, I'm gonna erase this.
Ah.
Oh, may I carry it, John? I'll take it. John, want me to carry that for you? Well, let's wait, you know.
I lost my key.
No,
I'm strong.
I carry you.
I can probably carry you too. I'm strong.
Did anybody see me
Thank
put
you.
it anywhere?
I'll come help you look.
I bet it's in my car.
Oh, do you think you locked it?
Oh! No, I walked over. Duh.
You walked over?
Yeah.
Val.
How pathetic. extremely painful.
But, you know what? We're going for a lot worse, so.
told my kids, I was like, I honestly think I could be home before 5:30. And they were like, what? I'm like, we don't want that. We can do crazy stuff when you're not here. Oh no. Are you fun, Dad? No, but. I have a bunch of plans to give you because I tried to go to the office, but I didn't get here till 3 because I had a college tour this morning. So, with what? MIT. My daughter is very fond of the idea. Are you trying to tell me that you're not? Well, no, I think it's fine, but I was never smart enough for that. That's why we're all here, Mark. Although building rockets. Although walking around that place today, I was perfectly ready to, go back to school. That's what's weird. You go to visit colleges and hang out with people for a minute, and all of a sudden you're like, I could do this again. Yeah. Now that I'm older and have worked for a while, I could quite happily do this again. Well, truth be told, you probably actually get more out of it now than you did when you were there. Probably you actually more.
Focus a little bit more.
Because I've been married for a long time, and I just wouldn't be as interested in girls. Well, I always found the kids that came back to school were just better at not being stupid. You've had a little time to kind of maybe grow up a little. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's still be awesome. But go back to college, just kill it. But too old. So we had fun with some of our checks. Oh. I just don't know how, how they cashed them all. It still boggles my mind that the Inquirer in here managed to cash four checks not made out to them.
Hi, Mark.
Mr. Hunter,
What's going on?
What on earth?
This is the Conservation Commission meeting?
Huh?
This is the Conservation Commission meeting?
Oh, geez, I thought
If you're not supposed to be,
It's not Elder Services?
No. You can make a break for it. AARP is downstairs.
Look at that big building.
28 Mills Point. I might as well put it out. And the 8 Pilgrims COC. Joe
What is that?
called about.
The fire station.
She saw it afterwards. Yeah, well, it wasn't labeled well, so we got a new label. I just put the new plan on there. And this one can go in the blue bin.
You should have made this check out to the Inquirer in here.
Well, they only cashed it, give it to them. I don't know how they all got bundled there in the first place.
So I figured out, I think this is my hypothesis, is they just endorsed it with their little stamp in the bank, just opened up the account,
Didn't even look at it.
and they just ran it through the little thing that just zips through the numbers,
Yeah,
and goes from there.
yeah.
So,
You still teach it?
I am.
How is it?
Yeah, it's good.
They're crazy, aren't they?
They are crazy. Yeah.
Last time I think I saw you over there, I was subbing a little bit,
Okay.
and I figured out it's the hardest job in the world. I would never have any idea how difficult it is to be a teacher if I hadn't actually experienced it myself.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
I thought I could manage anything, and then I was like, oh, 30 teenagers in one room.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, it is kind of wild.
well, it's funny you said, because when I actually got out of college and was looking for a job, I was substitute teaching.
Yeah.
It provides an excellent amount of flexibility to go for job interviews and things and you're not failing out. It's like, it's not a good substitute. And I realized then, I was like, why does anyone do this?
It's so hard.
Teaching is bad enough, and subbing is to some degrees even worse.
Don't say that, though. We
I
need
did a bit of it
subs.
in college, and that was enough.
Subbing?
Even though I gotta say, I did enjoy substituting with
And
high
that's
school
subbing.
when I was in elementary school.
Yeah.
Elementary school was the worst.
I did it for middle school because my daughter at the time was in the high school,
Yeah.
and I didn't want to be embarrassed, and I didn't want to embarrass her by going into a classroom that she was part of. having a friend say, "Hey, your dad was in what a goofball he is."
Yeah, that clown.
So,
It's not the word they would use.
so I know. So I stuck with the with the middle school.
Yeah, it was weird enough though, because I actually, one of the days I was teaching, I was doing it back in high school that I had gone to, and I was doing a biology class. The teacher missed, she was just giving me a test. So she's like, just hand out the test, don't take the test. And I caught two kids cheating. Because they had put like these crib sheets beneath the seat in front of them, and they kept like leaning forward and looking. And I went over there and was like, what are you guys doing? Nothing. And it's one of those things too. I was fresh out of college. I'm like, this is some of the worst cheating I've ever seen. You're not even trying.
They are trying though. They're just bad at
What's
it.
even worse though, so I had to go and so I collected their tests. I was like, I'm just going to do the right thing. I'm just going to take the test up and say, we'll leave a note that you guys can retake it or do whatever. And
Well, that's awful nice.
well, I wasn't sure what to do. I was going to leave it to the teacher. If she wanted to fail, she could fail. So she gave them the test again, and she taught them again. And then she's like, yeah, that's a 0. You just failed it.
On the same test?
Same test. I was just like,
They're not super sure.
No, the subsequent one is continuous.
no, but we can do that.
I meant to print it and bring it, but I emailed it like an hour ago.
No, I didn't, but we've done
I can get up if you.
The old one just turned 17 a couple
Okay,
weeks
thanks.
ago, and we were at MIT this morning for a college tour, and we were at Harvard on Monday for a college tour.
That's pretty impressive.
And we were at a doctor's appointment on Tuesday, so we had a crazy,
Very impressive.
we're running around, she's thinking lofty thoughts of colleges.
That's great.
That's I'm still trying to figure out wherever she gets in, how I'm gonna pay for it without cashing in the life insurance.
Sam's going to Mongolia.
Yeah. How's she doing there?
She loves it. She's her grades are great, and she made a lot of really good